Hello, and a very warm welcome back to Speak Up English Hub. I'm Guto, and if you are here, it's because you aren't just learning English anymore. You are living it, and you want to master it. Today we have something special, a challenge designed specifically for advanced learners. We often hear about common mistakes, but today we are going to dive deep into the nuance of language based on the classic 200 mistakes concept. Here is how this video works. First, I want you to relax and trust your ears. We're going to listen to a natural 14-minute conversation between two speakers. Don't worry about catching every single detail, just focus on the flow and the context. But please stick around until the end. Immediately after their chat, I'll be back with a 6-minute educational video. We will analyze the specific mistakes they discussed, look at the grammar behind them, and polish your accuracy together. Are you ready to test your listening and refine your speaking? Let's jump into the conversation. And don't forget to have access to the links in the description for you to practice and learn a lot more. Let's go to our today's lesson.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going all in, taking this huge compilation from professional editor Melanie Jacobs. We're talking 200 common English grammar errors and boiling it down for you.
That's right. And her work really covers, the full spectrum, everything from the absolute basics, parts of speech, all the way up to really advanced composition.
So our mission here isn't to just read off 200 rules. That's not helpful. We're pulling out the big ones, the high impact rules that will immediately make your communication better. Think of it like the essential playbook you need before you hit send on that job application or that big business proposal. It's all about avoiding that wrong impression.
And the stakes really are high.
Yeah.
Poor grammar. It almost always leads to confusion. The source gives this great example about tense. Imagine saying, our flight time is 42 minutes when you're already at baggage claim.
Right. The other person is suddenly thinking, wait, are we getting back on the plane? Did I time travel?
Exactly. You should have said, our flight time was. It's a tiny change, but it completely alters the meaning. And in today's world, with social media, mistakes can get amplified so quickly. Melanie Jacobs says it perfectly. You need adequate and constant learning.
Okay, so let's build up that protection right now. Segment 1, foundational fixes. We're starting with verbs, the action words. What's the most common, but maybe most obvious error you see?
It's got to be the third person singular S form. It seems so simple, but it gets dropped all the time, especially by learners whose first language doesn't have that kind of verb agreement.
So we're talking about the difference between, say, he played table tennis versus the correct he plays table tennis, that little S.
Yes, that S is absolutely essential. The verb has to agree with the subject, like he, she, or it, in the present tense. It's not optional. And then beyond that, you get the irregular verbs.
Oh, yeah, like the classic drink, drunk, that IAU pattern. How do people get tangled up there?
Well, they mix up the simple past with the past participle. So someone might say, I was thirsty, so I drank water. But drunk is the participle. You only use it with a helping verb, like have.
So for the simple action that's over, it has to be.
It has to be, I drank water. Recognizing that pattern drank for the finished action, drunk with a helper, is a huge step.
What about verbs that don't change at all, like put or cut?
Right. For those, it's all about context. The rest of the sentence has to do the work and signal that you're talking about the past. There's no other way to tell.
Let's move to prepositions. These are just notorious traps. Which verbs get a preposition when they shouldn't?
The verb discussed is a big one. People love to add about. You'll hear, the board discussed about the new policy.
What it should just be.
The board discussed the new policy. No preposition needed. It's direct.
Okay, and the opposite. Verbs that absolutely must have a preposition.
Listen, that's a prime example. You can't say, I like to listen him speak. It just sounds wrong.
It has to be, listen to him speak.
Exactly. That tiny word too is the bridge. Knowing which verbs need that bridge and which don't is key to sounding natural.
All right, let's shift to adverbs. The source points out a really common issue with comparatives.
Yeah, this is about using the word much correctly. People will sometimes say something like, Joe is more taller than his sister.
Which is redundant, right? Because taller is already the comparative.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You just need to say, Joe is much taller than his sister. Much just strengthens the comparison that's already there.
And this next one, this is a non-negotiable for any kind of professional writing. It just screams amateur. The double negative.
Oh, it's a huge red flag. You have to scrub it from your formal writing. You can't pair a negative word, like not with words that are already negative in meaning, like seldom, barely, or hardly.
So an example would be, Lisa barely never comes to class.
Right, and it's confusing. Barely already means almost not. So the correct, clean sentence is just, Lisa barely comes to class. It's so much clearer.
That's a great fix. And it leads us right into the last point for this segment, adjectives. Specifically, countable versus uncountable nouns.
This is such a core distinction. We use many for things you can count, like books or ideas, and we use much for things you can't, like water or advice. And this rule carries right over to fewer and less.
I see this one all the time. Can you give us that classic fewer-less example?
Of course. It's incorrect to say, I have less questions to answer, because you can count questions.
So you have to use the word for countable thing.
Exactly. I have fewer questions to answer. A great little trick is to ask yourself, can I put a number on it? If the answer is yes, you use many or fewer.
That's a fantastic test. And one last quick one, the difference between farther and further.
It's subtle, but important. Farther is for physical, literal distance. We drove 10 miles farther. Further is for figurative or metaphorical distance. We need to discuss this further.
Okay, so if the basics help with spoken clarity, let's get into segment 2, where mistakes really show up in writing. Word confusion and punctuation power. Let's start with homonyms.
These are the hidden landmines. The words sound exactly the same, but in writing, the wrong choice is a glaring error that can totally confuse your meaning.
Let's hit the classic one. Loose versus lose.
Right. Loose, L-O-S-E, is an adjective. It means not tight. This shirt is too loose. But lose, L-O-S-E, is a verb. It means you can't find something. Don't lose your keys.
And what about the big ones, your, and their, there? What's the best way for a student to check their own work on these?
The source has a great simple strategy. Just replace the word and see if it makes sense. For your, mentally plug in you are.
So if I wrote, you're doing a great job, I would test it. You are doing a great job. Okay, that works. So I need your.
It works every single time. It's a foolproof self-correction tool.
Let's do a quick fire round on a few others. Ones versus once.
Once, O-N-C-E, means one time. Once upon a time. Ones, with the apostrophe, is possessive. One must do one's best.
And two versus two.
Two, T-W-O, is just the number. Two, T-O-O, either means also, as in me too, or it means excessively, like it's too cold.
Okay, let's pivot to punctuation. The source uses that famous example to show how much a comma can matter.
Oh, it's brilliant. The difference between woman without her man is nothing, and woman without her man is nothing.
Wow, yeah, the commas completely reverse the meaning of the sentence.
They absolutely dictate the meaning. Punctuation isn't decoration, it prevents chaos.
Let's get specific, starting with the period. What's the rule for abbreviations at the end of a sentence?
This is a great tip for business writing. If your sentence ends with an abbreviation that has its own periods, like CMD for chairman and managing director, you do not add a second period.
So the period in the abbreviation does double duty.
Exactly. It ends both the abbreviation and the sentence. Just one period. Full stop.
And what about indirect questions? People always want to put a question mark there.
But you can't. If you're reporting a question, it becomes a statement. So not Jade asked where the money was, but Jade asked where the money was, period. It's a statement about a question.
And finally, the comma. The little hero of clarity.
It's so vital, especially in lists. You need commas to separate items, like in a will, to be shared among his wife, mother, children, and staff. Without the commas, it sounds like his wife is also his mother and his staff.
Which would be confusing. And you also use it to separate two adjectives, right?
Yes, when you're describing something with two distinct qualities, like a tattered, grievous man. The comma separates those ideas. The test is, could you put the word and between them? If yes, you need a comma.
And don't forget setting off titles.
Oh, absolutely. If you drop a title into a sentence, it needs commas around it. Will he, the CEO, attend the meeting? That phrase is an aside, so the commas fence it off and keep the main sentence structure clear.
This brings us to segment 3. Structure, audience, and getting to that next level of clarity. Let's talk about sentence composition, specifically tenses.
A really big mistake I see is using the continuous tense for a permanent fact. The continuous tense is for something temporary happening right now.
So saying the Earth is revolving around the sun is technically wrong.
It is, because it's a universal, unchanging truth. The correct form is the simple present. The earth revolves around the sun.
What about when you're talking about something that started in the past and is still going on right now?
For that, you need the present perfect continuous.
Yeah.
You can't say, I am waiting for you since 7 o'clock. The tenses are fighting each other.
Right. It has to be.
I've been waiting for you since 7 o'clock. It perfectly captures that the action started in the past and is still in progress.
Let's tackle pronouns. Those common mistakes we make when talking that then creep into our writing. I versus me.
2 simple golden rules here. First, never end a sentence with I as the object. It's not Jackson talked with I, it's Jackson talked with me.
And the second one, which I hear all the time.
It is always, always between you and me, never between you and I. And if you're ever stuck, just take the other person out of the sentence. You wouldn't say, this is between I. You'd say, this is between me.
That test is brilliant. So simple. Okay, what about bigger structural problems, like run-on sentences where 2 ideas are just smashed together?
The semicolon is your best friend here. It's the perfect, elegant tool to connect 2 closely related but complete sentences without using a simple word like and.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Racism is not exclusive to any culture. It is a demon we all have to resist. See, 2 full thoughts, linked powerfully.
Now for the advanced stuff. Cutting fluff. How do you even define that?
Fluff is just filler, unnecessary, redundant words that you add to sound smart or to hit a word count, but they actually weaken your message.
So what's the strategy to avoid it?
Write in 2 stages. First, get all your ideas down. Then go back with a red pen and be ruthless. Edit. The goal is to make every single word earn its place. Try to keep your paragraphs under 8 sentences. Be concise.
And a huge part of advanced writing is knowing your audience. Let's talk American versus British English, especially with collective nouns.
This is a dead giveaway. In American English, a collective noun like a team or a band is treated as a single unit. So the band is playing.
But in British English,
They often treat it as a plural, focusing on the individuals in the group. So you're much more likely to hear the band are playing, knowing that little difference shows you've done your homework.
give us one last subtle distinction that trips people up. Feel well versus feel good.
This is all about health versus happiness. Feel well is strictly about physical health. I wasn't feeling well, so I went home. Feel good is about your mood or emotions. I feel good about our chances.
So one is your body, one is your mind.
Exactly.
And finally, cliches. Why do we need to avoid them?
Because they're lazy. They're overused phrases like, only time will tell, that have lost all their impact. A strong writer will find a fresher way to say it, something like, the outcome will be unveiled over time. It just shows more thought.
We have covered so much ground today, pulling out these critical rules from Melanie Jacobs's work. We started with the foundations.
Making sure that S is on your verb, using fewer for things you can count.
Then we moved into those written traps, like loose, and gave you that great self-check for your.
And we can't forget punctuation. Using the period correctly for indirect questions and the comma to create clarity in your lists, it all prevents confusion.
And we finished with advanced topics, cutting the fluff, mastering tenses for facts versus ongoing actions, and knowing those key differences for your audience, like American versus British English.
And the key takeaway here is that this is all a system. Effective communication isn't magic. It comes from, a desire to be clear and taking these deliberate steps. It's a skill you can learn and master.
So as you start to use these rules, here's a final thought for you. Since mastering grammar is really about mastering a system, a structure, how much more value could you create for yourself by investing your time and energy into mastering that next level of English, knowing that the only real limitation is the one you place on yourself? Go put this to work, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
All right, let's talk about something that's basically a superpower in disguise: clear communication. We're all constantly sending emails, texts, and reports, and sometimes little grammar mistakes just happen. But what if I told you turning those oops moments into aha moments was way simpler than you thought? Well, that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to tackle some of the most common errors and give you simple fixes to make your writing sharp and confident. Let's dive in.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? You hit send on a really important email, and then your heart just sinks. You see it, that tiny little typo staring back at you. That's that universal oops moment. But hey, the good news is you are definitely not alone. This stuff is incredibly common.
So here's the thing. What if getting these right wasn't about memorizing some giant, dusty grammar book? What if the most common errors, the ones we see all the time, are actually super simple to fix once you see them clearly? Well,
That's exactly what we're about to find out. Okay, first up, let's tackle some of the usual suspects. I'm talking about those words that sound the same but mean totally different things. Nailing these is, seriously, a huge first step toward writing with more confidence. Okay, this is probably the #1 mix-up, but the fix is so simple. Let's break it down. Their, T-H-E-I-R, is all about ownership. It belongs to them. Here's a great little trick. Think of the I in there as a little person, and that person owns something. Now their, T-H-E-R-E, is all about place. It's got the word here right in it, which makes it super easy to remember. So their books are over there. And here's another classic. The fix for this one is a total lifesaver. It's this simple. If you can say you are, and the sentence still works, you absolutely need to use your. That little apostrophe is just standing in for the letter A in R. So, you are at the top of your career? Yep, makes perfect sense. The other one, your, is just for possession. It's your stuff, your ideas, your career.
Yeah, this one trips people up all the time, mostly because of how they sound. But here's the trick. Loose, with that double O, means something is not tight. I always think those two O's look kind of roomy, like they have extra space. They're loose. But lose, with just one O, is what you do when you can't find your keys or, you don't want to lose a game.
Okay, so we've handled some tricky words. Now let's talk about the tiny little marks that make a huge difference. Punctuation. Seriously, it's amazing how much meaning is packed into a simple comma. Think of them less as decoration and more like traffic signals for your sentences. They tell your reader exactly when to slow down, pause, or stop.
All right, check this out. Look at this sentence. No commas, no periods, nothing. Just words. Now read it. What's it saying? You could probably make a case for two totally opposite meanings, couldn't you? It's completely up in the air.
And bam! This is what I'm talking about. Look what happens when we just add a couple of commas. On one side, woman. Without her, man is nothing. Totally empowering, right? But on the other side, woman without her, man is nothing. The entire meaning just does a complete 180. This is proof positive that punctuation isn't just some optional extra. It is literally in charge of the meaning. So how do we get this right without memorizing a million rules? Let's just focus on two really quick and useful ones. First, just use a comma to separate items in a list, I need bread, milk, and coffee. It just keeps everything clean and easy to read. And second, use a comma to connect two full sentences when you're using a word like and or but. He quarreled with his wife. That's a whole idea. He drove to his friend's house. That's another whole idea. The comma just helps them join up nicely. Okay, so we know commas can connect ideas the right way. But what happens when you just kind of smash two sentences together without the proper punctuation? Well, that's when you get the dreaded run-on sentence.
And a run-on is pretty much what it sounds like. It's two complete thoughts, two whole sentences that just, they run into each other. There's no proper stop sign, no proper connection. And for the person reading it, it just feels confusing and a little breathless.
Okay, let's look at a real example. Racism is not exclusive to any culture. It is a demon we all have to resist. See what's happening? We have two full sentences here. Racism is not exclusive to any culture, period. That could be one sentence. And it is a demon we all have to resist, period. That could be another. That little comma in the middle just isn't strong enough for the job. It's an error we call a comma splice.
But check out this simple, elegant fix. The semicolon. It's like a super comma. It's stronger than a regular comma, but it's not a full stop like a period. It's the perfect tool when you have two ideas that are so closely connected, you want them in the same sentence, just like this. It creates this really smooth, smart-sounding flow instead of a clunky run-on.
So, we've covered word mix-ups, punctuation, sentence structure, but let's take a step back for a second. What's the real goal here? I mean, this isn't about being perfect or becoming the grammar police. Not at all. The actual goal is way more important and, honestly, way more useful. So here's what I really want you to take away from this. Number one, this is all about clear communication. That's it. It's not about memorizing rules for the sake of rules. It's about making sure people understand you, loud and clear. Number two, you don't have to be an expert. Just fixing these few common mistakes will make a massive difference in how your writing comes across. And finally, please, never forget the power of punctuation. That little comma example, it shows that these tiny marks can literally flip the meaning of your words. So, as we finish up, here's a question for you. Think about your next email, your next text message, your next report. Which one of these simple fixes are you going to use to make it just a little bit clearer? Maybe it's just double-checking for your and your, or throwing in a comma where it belongs.
Because at the end of the day, making your communication clearer, one tiny fix at a time, well, that's a skill that pays off everywhere.